Hey, this is Troy, your Cube Dweller fitness guy. And have you ever had the tables turn on you? You know, where it could be at work, where you've got to correct your boss, or an employee has to correct you as boss or manager, or on the field, as a coach, the player needs to correct the coach, or vice versa, mentor, mentee. Well, on this episode of Kettlebell Form Check, that's exactly how it feels. If you've been around my site at all, you know that one of the sites that I enjoy reading is Tony Gentilcore's. He was on my top 20 fitness sites to read, and just love reading Tony's stuff and have great respect for him. And so last week when I started reading his site and was reading about him talking about kettlebells, which I enjoy, it was great to see him really jump into the fray and say, come on, quit hating. Kettlebell is just another tool. So I love that. And then Tony went on and did a session. It's a 30-minute session that talks about how he and Cressy Performance use kettlebells. And he spent time walking through the Turkish get-up and the swing. And one of the things that Tony did is he said, look, here's what I've got, but I'd welcome some tips. And so I wrestled with that for a little while, but we brought the Kettlebell Form Check experts together and we took a look at Tony's swing. And, well, let's check out this Kettlebell Form Check.
Kettlebell Form Check.
In this Kettlebell Form Check, I think we're going to really just go through four things. We're going to look at relaxation, breath, precise motion, and posture. And most of these things, you'll see how Tony either does it inherently without even thinking about it because he's a certified strength and conditioning specialist and does a lot of work in the strength and conditioning world, or stuff that he talks about and we might tweak a little bit. And so let's first look at why you need to relax.
And they're not just loosey-goosey, like, okay, what do? They're tight, shoulder blades, chest out, shoulder blades together. They're gripping the kettlebell tight. Like, it should be like they're trying to melt that handle in their hand, okay? They're trying to melt that handle in their hand.
Tony says your hand should be melting into the kettlebell. There's so much tension there, and I really wrestled with, where could we come at that differently? Now, this is Cube Dweller Fitness. I'm the Cube Dweller Fitness guy. One of the things that I live with is, as I work in a cube, I have tension. That could be from stress, could be from bad posture, could be from a number of other things. But I work out and I do fitness to help offset that stress and tension that comes from the Cube Dweller lifestyle. And so one of the things that, as we looked at it, as the Kettlebell Form Check experts looked at it, we said we want to apply tension only as needed. Because if in our workouts, if we're carrying unneeded tension, that actually rolls over into the rest of our life. Imagine that. If I'm holding extra tension, particularly in the forearms, but anywhere, and then I go to work and sit in the same tight position, I've actually aggravated things. And that tension can actually roll over into repetitive motion syndrome. We don't need other things that are going to give us carpal tunnel syndrome problems, right? And so think again about how you look at gripping the kettlebell. You don't want to melt your hands into it. It should be a really loose grip. And when we look at posture at the end, we'll look at it again. But you're really going to grab loosely, hold on to it. And the other part is, as we work on the kettlebell swing, that tight grip could work for the swing. But as you progress, as we look at other kettlebell movements like the clean and like the snatch, that bell, that horn is going to have to shift inside our hands. And if we've been building that foundation of the kettlebell swing with the tight grip trying to melt right through that handle, that tension is just going to rip our palms apart when we try and go to the clean or the snatch. And so instead, relax, put only enough tension as needed. And so you're grabbing the kettlebell, hooking it in your hands as it comes down and swings out, but that's it. That's going to really enable yourself to build a good foundation to build the kettlebell clean and the kettlebell snatch. The next point is breath. Check this next clip.
By the way, it sucks coaching a different swing. Every time I keep reminding myself I'm trying to talk, I'm like, okay, Now we're gonna do this.
Now that's all that Tony talks about in breath. Really, he just jokes that demonstrating while coaching, and I know what that's like, is a royal pain. You're out of breath and you're trying to talk. But instead, when we're doing kettlebell motions, it's worthwhile taking a look at how you breathe. Actually, take a look at this other video and look at the kettlebell form check of my swing. I had been using a very traditional breathing pattern where as I'm lifting, as I'm exerting, that I'm going to exhale. And the experts, as they looked at my my swing, that's one of the things they corrected. They said instead, if you flip your breathing pattern for the swing, so we're actually exhaling when we come down, inhaling when we come up, we're actually helping ourselves to drive the movement. And so think about that as you do the swing. Check out the other videos, you get more detail about it. The next part, and this is where I enjoy Tony's stuff. I don't think he really realizes the number of things he does without thinking about it, but this is worth mentioning, that precise motion matters. When you're doing the kettlebell swing, there are two primary joints that are doing the movement. It's your hips and your knees. If you watch this next clip, you can see Tony as he goes through and does it. You can see that his knees and his hips are moving in synchronicity. They're starting motion at the same time. They're reaching full range of motion at the same time, just like a scissor jack would. That is ideal. The last part is posture. And again, I can't slam Tony on this. He just kind of breezes over a little bit and just says, step about shoulder width apart. But watch as we walk through this next voiceover, there's just a couple other steps we can go through. And I think it's just worthwhile to look at your posture, get the position right, and so you know you're going to have enough room for the kettlebell to move, and your knees and your feet are going to be in the right place. All right, you see Nate's feet are facing forward, about shoulder width apart, and then he puts his hands down with his thumb sticking out to get the right width. That's going to help you adjust your stance. And then as he's down there, he'll reach for the bell and stand up to start the swing. So that's the kettlebell form check for Tony Gentilcore. I hope it just continues the discussion that kettlebells are just one tool. They're one tool, but when you're doing it, make sure you relax, you watch your breathing, watch precise motion, and get your posture right. One of the ways you can do that is submit your video for a kettlebell form check. Thanks.